welcome to the internationally known 24/7 grind with Peanut the General. You're now just in love with the hour with the elders where it's all love. What looks are deceiving, but our team is achieving. It's nothing too great and nothing too small. Come on in, let's chit chat. Let's talk about it all. We love you and thank you for being here.
What's up, man?
What's up, my baby?
Chillin',
I,
chillin',
I know
man.
I
What
know
was you
that
win?
I know that devil mad. I know that devil mad, son.
He gonna stay mad too.
Yeah.
You hear me? Where OG went?
Oh wow, yeah. Where you at, OG?
He was there. But you know what I'm saying? All right, little mama back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's not feeling good today.
That was
She
up.
got a little, she got a little cold coming on her, a little light fever on her.
Yeah, my son was sick today too, man. Man was sick today too. So we
Yeah,
waiting
we got
on
to
OG to get
keep
in
eye
here.
on,
I know.
keep.
Let me see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we finally in here. We waiting on OG. You heard me? So we're gonna talk about his grandfather. But
Yeah,
let me
this
see
this
where
is
he
pretty
at.
historic, y'all. This is pretty historic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm trying to see, and y'all know I'm blocked out my inbox. I'm gonna see my messenger, man. I can't.
I was wondering why you wasn't on it because I hit you up earlier, and yesterday me and OG was talking down, and I was surprised that you didn't say anything.
I can't. I see y'all, though.
Oh
You know what
my
I'm
God.
saying? I see y'all, though.
Yeah, because I was
So,
telling him about me putting that post up for my niece and the story behind it.
yup. Rest in peace. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do a moment of silence for her too.
Yeah, thank you. This
Saying
look out be snowing so loud. I hope y'all don't hear.
it's all good. She congested.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I I think she have that upper respiratory because one time at 4 months when COVID came out, when I had COVID, she had COVID too. I actually caught it from her. She caught it from my mom, but she had COVID at 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So me, her, the mom, and my son had it. Only one didn't have it. It was Auntie. She didn't get it.
Yeah.
She was drinking and having her fun.
Bruh. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't last long, no.
No. Well, for me, it lasted 21 days. That was long enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had it bad. But I lay her down. She get right back up. Yeah, I had it bad. But I was under that cancer and all of that, so it was like a compromising thing.
So while we wait for OG, I'm gonna cue the video up and stuff. He was just saying I saw him, man. You hear me?
Right, right.
I don't know. And he I know he got the message that, like I said, I saw him in here. You hear me? But you gonna wait for him. You hear me? You never know. You never know what the devil doing.
Oh yeah, this a story they don't want to hear, and and I know this one is gonna be emotional for him because this is really personal.
Yeah, he probably like saying the personal prayer something. You
Mhm.
let's see, man. I'm munched out, man. Man, I'm hungry. And for the viewers, we sorry. You heard me? It's a little ghetto over here. Mm-mm. Oh, you at, man? You know? But I could start. I got the video. You know what I'm saying? That I'm
Mhm.
doing right now. I could start the video
Well,
until
yeah,
you get
they'll
here.
have a head. They'll have a heads up what it's about.
Well, yeah, that's true. But let me pull that up. He was good down here. I'm real proud of dog. You know what I'm
You seen him on this one here, right?
saying? Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I saw both y'all backstage. You hear me? That's why I just
Okay, okay.
but running late, so I just started. I know
How
we
can
usually do a little sound check, but you know what I'm saying?
right? In order for me to hit him and see what's going on the on chat, I would have to go out, hon. I don't want to get my own self lost. So
Nah, you good. As long as I don't go out. But like I said, he got the message and stuff. But if you want to go out and see what he's doing, you can. It's gonna let you back on.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So we apologize, y'all. But like we said, like I always say, everything is live. So when I'm messing up, we messing up. If I got technical difficulties, you heard me? We got technical difficulties, you heard me? But it's all good, it's all love. Y'all already know we always get we always complete the mission. You know what I'm saying? You know, it may start late. You know what I'm saying? But we always complete the mission, you heard me? Let me see. Let's see. Yeah, right, boom. So,
He didn't answer.
and that's it's all good. We gonna wait on. We gotta wait on him. He just started shooting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, how you doing, though, man?
I'm doing good. Just hot as hell. Hot. I'm good.
I'm
Though.
just eager to get into it. You know, it's an
Right.
interesting topic.
It
You
really
know,
is. It really.
and it goes right into what we've been talking about. What we talked about on the week run up just now, and what we about to get into voting rights, our rights. Who was fighting for us? What were they doing? What was the cost and the extent for that fight for us? This is why a lot of people feel strongly about things like voting and things like segregation and all that, because they lost family members behind that fight. They lost friends behind that fight. They lost friends of family behind that fight. Even white people, you know what I'm saying? Some of them stood with us as well. You know what I'm saying? They were treated just like we was. It was not. It wasn't a friendly place. It wasn't a happy time. You know what I'm saying? And when you went out there, and you stepped out in that field, and you went out there with the knowledge, knowing that you might not come back. And I think that's real. You know what I'm saying? And people laid their life down so we could have a vote, and then, but on the flip side, and then this is what we do with it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
We take the same vote that our people put their life on the line for, that our people died for, and we take that vote and we use it and we turn against each other with it. You see what I'm saying? We take that vote and we vote off of popularity. We take that vote that people died for and people gave their time and their effort for. You see what I'm saying? And we take that and we use racism. We vote off of hate. We vote off of fear. You know what I'm saying? And that is not what them people stood up with courage to do. It took a lot of courage to put your life on the line for anything. So to do anything out of fear, and people put their life on the line for this, to do anything out of the sole simple thing of what it's supposed to be done for, and people die for it and stand on business for it, is disrespect to them. And that's why I don't play with it. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm trying to be difficult or I'm trying to be different or get views or none of that. People really love. It's like the young ones. They be dissing the dead and stuff. That to me, that's like dissing the dead. If you know them people playing with you, and you know it's not fair, and you know it needs to be turned around, and work needs to be done on it, and this and that, right? Then why would you partake in it knowing they playing on this? Why would you partake in it knowing they using it as a tool for division? Why would you partake in it knowing that these people do not have interest and because that's why they do the propaganda, which is the hate, which is the fear. Because if you just looking at them as a candidate, they're a regular human being. What you gonna do for me that I can't do for myself? Let's start there. You can make a whole lot of rules, and you can enforce those rules in a way that could dictate to me. But what could you do for me that I can't do for myself? This is a free country. Ain't nothing that you could do for me that I can't do for myself. You know what I'm saying? That's why I really don't. They playing with us with it. What is OG doing? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see what's going on. And like I still, you heard me? All right, there we go. Yo. Yo. You muted. Your mic muted, OG.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hey, OG, how you doing today, my love?
I'm good. What's happening, Sid?
I'm hanging in there, bro. All gravy.
Sending me through the wire, trying to get on here through Facebook. I mean, through
They try to block what
through
God gonna
Instagram.
bless. They always try to block what God gonna bless, but they can't do it when He involved. Touch not minority one.
That's what it is, too. You heard me? So, you want to introduce everybody, OG, you heard me? First of all, how you doing today? You know what I'm saying? You want to introduce everybody into the topic that we gonna get into today, you heard me?
Which one did you pull up? The one with my mama?
I just looked it up. I can't find the one, like, from me not being able to have access to the thing, I can't pull it up from there, and it's not coming up on. It's all kind of foolishness, y'all. Like I said,
Just tell them in whole in general what the subject gonna be about.
Well, what we're about to watch is pretty much information on my grandfather, Herbert Lee, civil rights activist and martyr, born April 1st, rather, I'm sorry, January 1st, I'm sorry, 1912. My grandfather stood about 5'4", 150 pounds. He was real small in stature, but he was a giant. And he was an entrepreneur, he was an entrepreneur back then. Big Mama taught him how to sign his name so he could do business in Liberty and throughout Macomb. I won't give the specific number, but before he was murdered, the land that he left to the family, which we still own to this day, is well over 100 acres. My grandfather owned his own dairy, his own beef, his own pork, his own cotton. Back then, black man wasn't supposed to have all that. And Bob Moses was a very prominent civil rights activist with the Southern Negro Christian Coalition. And when he started coming to that area, my grandfather was the first to support him, drive him around, take him where he needed to go. Along with one of his friends, E.A. Steptoe, they built a voting school and a church in the community, and they taught the other black families in the community how to vote, what to do when you vote, the things that they would go through in opposition when they would go to the polls, so on and so forth. So Democratic.
So wait, hold up, wait. So what were some of those things, OG?
Say again.
What were some of those things that you said that they warned them and got them ready for that had to do with voting? You heard me?
You said what did they warn my grandfather about?
Now, what did you say? It was all kind of things about voting that they taught other people. What was some things that they warned those people and taught those people about the vote?
Basically, the violence, in a nutshell, the violence that they would face for going to the polls to cast their ballot. They were telling them how to handle the opposition, that they were going to have to face and possibly endure afterwards because it was going on at that time. And so Democratic Mississippi State legislator E.H. Hurst, who just so happened to be a childhood friend of my grandfather's. They grew up together as boyhood friends, but once my grandfather became an adult, had his own family, became active in the movement and joined the NAACP, Hearst became a bitter enemy. And the morning of September 25th, 1961, he followed my grandfather to Liberty, to the cotton gin, and pretty much threatened my grandfather, told him, I'm not playing with you this time, because they had been threatening my grandfather and that wouldn't stop him. Word had got back to the U.S. attorney at that time. He warned the government of the threats my grandfather was receiving. The government decided not to do anything about it. And that particular morning at the cotton gin, my grandfather told Hearst, I'm not talking to you about anything until you put the gun down. So E.H. Hurst baited him in. When he put the gun down, my grandfather opened the door of his truck to step out, and E.H. Hurst ran up on him and shot him in the head, left him dead. Hmm. So
I
I kind
got you. I
of
got you. I'm trying to. I'm looking for what you sent me. You heard me. You see
you can pull up Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen. Type in Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen.
all right. Come on, man. All right.
Do I need to resend you the link? Would that be easier? Well, no,
I,
I can't do it now because I'm on the tab.
and I can't get to like you got to do it the hard way. You heard me? All right. Come on.
I'm gonna pull it up and send it to you right there.
I can't get to it. All
Oh,
right.
all right.
Herbert Lee and who else?
Lewis Allen, Louis, Louis Allen.
Hey, I here you go. You heard me? So, all right. Which one you want to go to? The Forgotten Martyrs, Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen. You want to go to that
Yeah,
one?
you can pull that one up. That's fine. I mean, they pretty much say all of them pretty much say the same thing until and unless you pull up the one where they interview my mother, and then that's when it gets more in depth for real.
Thanks. Thanks.
Welcome, Mr. Tripod, and happy Black History Month. Today's video is an in-depth look into the murders of Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen. It's tale of brutality and speculation. If you get triggered by anything to do with that, feel free to click off this video. Perhaps check out my gaming channel, Little Tiny Games, for some library content. Now, I'm Nicole. Let's get started.
y'all got this stupid music on my people
The
thing,
Civil
man?
War gave birth to 3 new amendments to the Constitution. The 13th, which abolished slavery. The 14th, which granted African American citizenship. And the 15th, which outlawed discrimination in voting rights.
Can y'all see?
The law forbade
Yeah.
people from voting based on race, color, or previous conditions of servitude, but it didn't automatically guarantee anyone the right to vote. The South took advantage of this notion by refusing African Americans the right to vote by a number of reasons, including literacy tests and poll taxes. It wouldn't be until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that blacks were given the right to vote, but that wouldn't mean no one fought for the right to do so sooner. It begins with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, founded in 1909 in New York City. Its main agenda? To provide equal rights for all and eliminate discrimination. While the organization was putting dents into the judicial system, Ella Baker wanted more. Persuading Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. into giving her $800,
His name Michael.
at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. The conference, at first, was to bring together the students involved in the sit-in movements, such as the Greensboro Four, but soon involved in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Baker encouraged the SNCC to look beyond integration to broader social change in the organization group. On Baker's influence, Robert Bob Moses went to Mississippi in 1960 to meet with local NAACP leader Anzie Moore, and this sparked the SNCC's first voter registration project. Having been a charter member of the Almont County chapter of the NAACP since the 1950s, dairy farmer Herbert Lee obliged to drive Moses around to encourage blacks to register to vote. Herbert Lee, born January 1st, 1912, was raised in Almont County, Mississippi. He didn't have much of an education, but he could sign his own name, courtesy of his wife, Prince. Together, the two had 9 children. Lee tried to avoid racial aggression when his children were present, but he was firm in his beliefs and membership with the NAACP. The Almont County chapter was founded by one of his boyhood friends, E.W. Steptoe. Steptoe, Lee, and Moses organized a voting school and a church on Steptoe's property, which angered the Caucasian community. Assistant U.S. Attorney John Doerr learned that E.H. Hurst, Lee's boyhood friend, and member of the Mississippi State Legislature, threatened to harm activists in Almont, yet the government refused to protect Lee or anyone else involved. Hurst and Lee lived next door to one another, and got along cordially as they aged, but when Lee joined the NAACP, their relationship hit a sour note. Passing each other at a cotton gin on September 25th, 1961, Hurst and Lee exchanged a few words. Lee was sitting in his pickup truck, an unlit cigarette in his mouth, as Hurst, outside the truck, declared, "I'm not playing around this time," as he held a pistol in his hands. Lee told Hurst he wouldn't talk to him until he put the gun down. So Hurst removed his weapon, and Lee stepped out of his vehicle. Hurst rushed around to Lee and pulled the trigger. Lee's body lay on the ground for 2 hours until a coroner could be called. The murder took place in broad daylight, in front of at least a dozen witnesses, but only 5 would testify. A.B. Westbrook and Jack Reynolds, both white, Jesse Anderson, Reverend Orr Marshall, and Lewis Allen, all black. The witnesses would state that Lee and Hurst exchanged words, but Lee had a tire iron and threatened Hurst with it. Hurst fired the gun in self-defense. With this testimony, Hurst wouldn't be charged for Lee's murder, and the investigation seemingly closed. But after a month, witness Lewis Allen couldn't allow himself to let the soul of the dead man be tarnished. Lewis Allen was born and raised in Liberty, Mississippi. He was a World War II vet and ran a small timber business. He was married with 4 children: Tommy, Henry, also known as Hank, Elaine, and Mary. He got along well with either side of the racial spectrum, but when John Doerr wanted an investigation into Lee's death, Allen couldn't sit idle by. Doerr was rejected 3 times to reopen the Lee case, and when it was opened, the SNCC knew they needed a witness for a federal case. Allen confided in Julian Bond, a member of the SNCC, and Bob Moses about Lee's death. He explained what he saw, and that he was escorted to a courthouse in Liberty, where he was coerced into lying. Allen stated that he did so out of fear. He then told the FBI and the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights asking for protection, but the FBI refused to provide it. He then recanted his story, but word never began to spread. Allegedly, Allen was told of a plot by the sheriff and 7 other men by his daughter-in-law to get him. She was told this information by her employer. From there, Allen would be harassed and threatened continuously for 3 years. Allen's business suffered and his debts grew. July 1962, Deputy Sheriff Daniel Jones arrested him for interfering with the law. Reports differ in what interference Jones was referring. One report states that it was a misunderstanding that involved Allen going to jail for a woman who asked him to make a call for her, while another states that he placed himself in the middle of the case between black shoplifters in the jail. Whatever the case may be, when Jones arrived at Lee's house, he was not informative. Allen asked what the charges were and if he could get his hat. Jones told him he couldn't, so Allen then asked if his son could, and turned his face to Hank. When he did so, Jones struck him with his flashlight, breaking his jawbone. Allen filed an affidavit, but it was thrown out. His next arrest was at a gas station. Allen had a gun for protection, kept in the glove box of his truck. Jones told Allen to get out of his car as he searched the truck. He found the gun and arrested him for carrying a concealed weapon. August 1963, Mrs. Allen hit her head while playing with their youngest child and went to the doctor to get stitches. Jones was there, either by chance or otherwise, and asked for her to answer a few questions. His main one asking if Allen hit her. She denied this, but Jones and the local department would use this incident to their advantage. November 1963, Allen was arrested for writing a bad check. His trial was to be held March 1964 in Jackson, but he had been warned to get out of town by January 1964. He was released on an $800 bond paid for by NAACP. Allen wanted to get out of Liberty, but he couldn't leave his sick mother. But when she died in late 1963, he decided he was going to take refuge in Milwaukee in February 1964. While he set out for a change, someone was watching him. According to a report by an unknown witness, 2 cars were parked on the road to Allen's house around 10 a.m. on the day of his death. Perhaps not noticing, Allen set out for work recommendations, but no one would help. Claiming helping him would be helping the communists. At around 6 or 7, Allen left his house to go to Lloyd King's place. King remembers speaking to him at 8:10 p.m. 2 cars were seen following Allen. One was a cream tan Ford 61 with 2 men inside. The other, a black Ford 60 with only 1 man inside. Allen arrived at his home around 8:30 p.m. In the driveway, he tried to undo the loop of barbed wire to open his gate, but something or someone spooked him, and he ducked underneath his truck. At 8:35 p.m., Mrs. Allen heard 3 shots, but paid it no attention. She went to the window repeatedly, only seeing the lights from Lewis's truck. Had she gone out, she would have found her deceased husband. Lewis Allen's body was found around midnight by his son, Hank. Hank arrived home and was confused why his dad would leave his car in the driveway. He got in to move it, and when he stepped out, he landed on his father's hand. Lewis had been shot close and hard enough that his face was nearly unrecognizable. He had been killed with deer shots. Now Sheriff Daniel Jones led the investigation of Allen's death. Jones lived 2 miles from the Allen home and was woken up, according to reports, by Hank and Allen's nephew. Under Jones's direction, the case had a lot of dead ends. The assumption is that Allen's killer may be part of his family, and that domestic violence against his wife didn't help matters. Allen was also said to have played a role in the voting registration, but according to his wife, he tried to vote twice and was rejected both times and never went back. Lewis Allen wasn't involved in voting beyond that. The case was closed soon, but reopened in 2006 by the FBI. It has yet to be solved. 60 Minutes did a special of Lewis Allen in 2011 that figured Daniel Jones and either the killer are involved. At the time, he refused a lie detector test or to comment on the case as a whole. He died 2 years later, taking what he knew to the grave. As of 2018, the murder of Lewis Allen remains unsolved, but the deaths and harassments in Allen County didn't end. Jack White, Cleveland Walker, and Reverend James Caston were told to leave town by Daniel Jones. Members of the Parish Hill Baptist Church were warned to no longer hold services. Between Pike and Amite County, many black businesses and homes were burned to the ground. At Herbert Lee's funeral, Prince, his wife, accused Bob Moses of killing him. When Lewis Allen died, Moses rose his voice to support what would become the Mississippi Freedom Summer Project, a voter registration drive for African Americans. Though Herbert Lee and Lewis Allen were murdered for different reasons, their values were the same. They wanted to protect their family, but more importantly, do what they felt was right. Lee wanted to encourage the voices of black citizens, and Allen wanted to give a voice to a dead man. I'm Mrs. True Crime, and remember to be kind, be loud.
Oh, that's a deep story.
Yeah.
Well, gee, I know you was young, right? This happened, but if
Say again.
right? Could you tell us the type of effect that losing your grandfather had on your family?
Well, being that was way before my time, just listening to the stories that Big Mama, my mama, my uncles and my aunties would tell, you could tell that they were extremely impacted by that loss. You know, after his murder, they lived in fear for quite some time. You know, you got to understand the Klan was highly active back then, especially in Mississippi. They were in a rural area. Basically, they took the only protection that my mother and her siblings and Big Mama had, which was Papa. They murdered him. So you leave this woman and basically 8 children to raise by herself with no protection because my other aunt, I think it was my other aunt or one of my older aunties, one of my older uncles, one was off at college. So only 8 of them were at home at the time. Nevertheless, they were still too young to really, do anything or attempt to even try to do anything back then about what had happened. So they lived in fear. Big Mama pretty much had to take over the business, which meant that they lost out on a lot of money because that wasn't her lane. That was my grandfather's lane. He dealt, with the banks and the people in town and all of that. She didn't have to do that. She helped him with the business at home and in the house, and with the kids. But as far as the business aspect of it, that was all him. So when it was left to her to do, that meant until she left that area and migrated to New Orleans in '74, they got beat out of a lot of money. Growing up, I guess having your father murdered would leave you with all type of mental and emotional trauma because there's a separation that wasn't asked for. It was taken away from them. And then to add insult to injury, being a man of power, he even went as far as to try to make it so they couldn't even take my grandfather's body into a church the day of the funeral. I mean, E.A. Church was just low down, bro. He was evil. He was dirty. And my people had to deal, with that tension, that hatred, for a long time. At least until my mama and my youngest auntie graduated high school and went off to college, and then Big Mama left and went to New Orleans.
How
But
how
then, go ahead.
how hard was it for her to even have to raise her children alone? Was there any help with the family in the community without having to raise her children alone and then try to run a business that she really knew little to nothing about? So how hard was that for her
Um, I,
having so
I
many kids?
really didn't hear or ever hear my mother speak of them. I mean, they had family and close knit friends, I'm sure, that helped them,
Right.
after that happened, but there was not a whole lot of lot lot of talk about help, after losing my grandfather. One thing you have to understand is that even like Lewis Allen, as close as he as my grandfather were, although he was not active in the civil rights movement like my grandfather was, it still took him a while out of fear before he said anything because he knew the threats and the dangers that would come to his people for doing so. And you can see what happened. Ultimately, they ran his family up out of Liberty, Mississippi because it was hurting his business. Unlike Pawpaw business was self-sufficient. He had his own everything. But Lewis Allen was a truck driver who hauled logs. So they could hurt his business easily. So eventually he had to get out of town, but as you can see, he ended up, I think they said he ended up coming back, or before he left, they murdered him. They killed him because he came forward and testified about what really happened. My grandfather never had a tire iron in his hand. He had a tire iron in the truck bed along with all the bales of cotton that he had brought to town to bring to the cotton gin to get his money for, to provide for his family. But because he stood up to white folks in a time when you weren't supposed to, and he done it in public, that's why E.H. Hurst killed him at the end of the day.
Your papa, he was not just a family man and owned a lot of property and everything, but he also was a serviceman to the community in chartering. Want to speak on telling us about what was he chartering? What type of service was he doing?
Um, Basically, during election time, when Smith would come to town, he would um, he would basically serve as a chauffeur, and his one of his best friends, E.A. Steptoe, they decided to, like I was saying earlier, they built a voting school to teach the people, to teach the other families and people in the community how to vote, what they would need to vote, the things they would face when they would get to the voting booth by the white people trying to provoke fear and intimidation, so on and so forth. And my grandfather was the type whenever they would, like I said, he had the dairy, he had his own beef, he had his own pork. So anybody in the community that didn't have, Papa made sure they had. You know, that's how he was. If he had, he wanted you to have, as my mother would say. If he was successful and progressing forward, he wanted you to come along with him. You know, that's how that's how his character was taught and explained to us as his grandchildren growing up.
So when he was seeing to people going to the voting polls and all that, that was just free of charge. He was just doing that on his own, right?
He was just doing that on his own because he understood that we as a people needed a voice. That being self-sufficient and independent wasn't enough. We needed uh we needed power through the vote to make even more changes in places where we couldn't physically put our feet. My grandfather believed in trying to be effective in more than just his area as much as he possibly could. And he knew that the vote meant that. And
How
that's why.
old?
Let me. Oh, I'm sorry, Ma. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want. How old was you, OG, when you got the understanding of this? When it was brought to you, I know you wasn't born during that time because I wasn't born.
Well,
But
I heard about it all of my life, but it's only been over the last, I say, 15 years or so that I
okay,
really began to dig. I guess the older I get, I'm 53 now, the older I get, the more I want to know about my grandfather and other civil rights martyrs that are not talked about, because anytime this issue or this topic comes up, all we ever hear about is Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and Malcolm. No slight to them, no disrespect to them. But what about the people who were really in the trenches? Grassroots people who started this thing before those people came along and lost their lives in the process for them to even be able to do what they did.
right,
Uh, People know about Medgar Evers, but prior to Medgar Evers presiding over my grandfather's funeral and all of that media being there, because the government knew my grandfather was about to be murdered and done nothing about it, nobody even knew who Medgar Evers was. Again, no disrespect to him and his family, but that's what catapulted Medgar Evers into the limelight and made his name known, because he did my grandfather's funeral. After the funeral, he came to the house. My grandmother, Big Mama, and my aunties, my mama, they knew the man
right.
personally.
Wow.
OG, what type of responsibility, if any, do you feel upon yourself to carry along your grandfather's legacy?
I want my grandfather's legacy to be known because, again, all you hear about is Malcolm, Rosa, and Dr. King. No disrespect to them, no slight to them, but there are hundreds of thousands of other people who sacrificed and gave their life for us to be able to vote today. And my grandfather is one of them. And I'm just tired of these people's names being overlooked. It's one thing to build a museum in Montgomery and put his name on it and invite the family there way back in '89, all of the families who lost loved ones as civil rights martyrs. You know, it's one thing to build all of these museums and put their names and their contribution in them, but make their names just as public and just as known as the names that are already out here today. And that's why I push like I push. And another reason is because I can't tell anybody how to vote, nor will I try to tell anybody how to vote, but I would just love to see Black people come up off of the Democratic slave plantation, because that's what it is. For years, I voted Democrat until I found out that E.H. Hurst was a Democrat. And then I felt for years, okay, I've been voting Democrat. I'm disrespecting my grandfather doing that. That's how I felt. That's how I still feel. So that's why I find it very hard to vote for anybody that is Democrat unless they are pushing the right kind of policies that line up with what thus saith the Lord. And if they don't line up with scripture, I'm not voting for them, whether they be Democratic or Republican or whatever, but especially Democratic, because they are responsible for a lot of pain, a lot of oppression, and a lot of murder and loss of Black families. They are the founders of the Klan. They were pro-slavery. They pushed for it from the time the Democratic Party was founded, way back in the 1800s. They were pro-slavery. They are pro-abortion. Any and everything that goes against what this country / corporation is supposed to stand for, proclaiming itself to be a Christian nation, is what the Democratic Party stands for. So as a Christian man, I can't represent that, not just because that party is responsible for the murder of my grandfather, and they done nothing about it. Like I said, U.S. Attorney John Doe notified the government of the threats my grandfather was receiving, and the government turned a blind eye, looked the other way. And Big Mama died back in 2015 at 98 years old.
Wow,
Never
that's
got any justice.
wow.
Never. EHS never saw a set of handcuffs, let alone the inside of a jail cell or a courtroom. So it has left a, a, a stain, you know, on on the on the family. My mother's desire is to see the records change because, as far as I know, they still have it on paper that it was self-defense, that he had a crowbar in his hand when he did it. So that's her greatest desire. You know, will she ever look for monetary retribution behind that? I don't know. But I do know that priority for her is having her father's legacy be known, and having that paperwork changed from him supposedly attacking E.H. Hirsch when he never even approached the man.
You said your big mama died at 98 years old. God is good. That's a blessing. Did she ever
Yeah,
find love again in her life? You know, did she ever move on with her life after that? I mean, 98 years. Did she ever find love in her life again?
Big Mama said that when they took their vows to God and then each other, they said it was to death do us part, and she was still living. So that should answer your question.
Yes,
No,
yes.
she never dated. No, she never remarried. She died with her wedding ring on her finger, saying that she was still married to one man, Herbert Lee Sr., until God took her from here. And that's what she did,
So they basically stole her life away from her too. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I was just about to say that. So OG,
pretty much.
the
Because
the
Big Mama was 44 at the time, and when they murdered my grandfather, he was 49, 50, one of them.
Wow.
So
OG,
he,
when you look at um what your grandfather died for, would you look at the voting situation and other civil rights situations up to date, the seriousness of it being taken. Um, what are your thoughts on the ways of the civil rights of yesterday and the ways of the civil rights movement today?
say that last part again. What are my thoughts on it with the civil rights there? What?
The civil rights movement of yesterday and the civil rights movement of today, meaning like the voting thing, what's come up to vote, what is the vote even valued anymore? The ways that they came to come to voting and to see what it is now. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, to be honest, I think the only real difference is that back then, a lot of people that we thought were adults in these documentaries and videos that we see, those were not adults. The civil rights movement had more young teenagers, high school age, early 20, early early 20 year olds in college, you know, early age 20-year olds in college than it had, you know, truly adult grown folk. Um, I don't think anything is really different other than that. The oppression is still the same. They still want to suppress the vote the same way they did back then. They still try to suppress our vote, limit us, you know, from being able to vote, cutting off certain areas, setting certain time limits for, you know, people to vote when they know folks in black areas be at work at that time, so on and so forth. Um, the killing has gotten worse.
Well,
Um, Say again.
Go ahead, my bad.
So the academics has gotten worse. At 53 years old, I don't understand how from the 20s, basically throughout the 50s, how with so little education and so many obstacles against them that the powers that be made legal to set in place against them, how did our elders accomplish so much more with so much less, with all of that opposition they had to face? And the answer to that question is their faith in Christ and their honor and their integrity to stand on his word. That's how they made it. And by sticking together, because truly back then they had no choice. I believe that we as a people now, we've gotten too complacent, too comfortable. We've been given access to a whole lot more than our elders had. We've attained materially a lot more than our elders had. And so the mindset about unity amongst us has changed and become more of I got mine, let the Negro get his own. And that's where we messing up at, because that works to the powers that be advantage, because their motive and agenda is still to divide and conquer. And that is what they are doing. Only time they really want to come around and act like they're witches when they want your vote. Other than that, you don't see them the rest of the year. Your neighborhoods don't progress. Your neighborhood schools aren't progressing. But gas prices are steady going up. Food prices are steady going up. But the quality of it is going down. So where is the Democratic Party really helping Black people who are giving them their vote for nothing in return for the past 200 years? Keep in mind, again, I'm going to say it, they gave birth to the Klan. What more do you need than that to not want to vote for this party that still has that same mindset, that same ideology of oppression as their agenda? Even today, when you look at their platform, since the Obama administration, all they have pushed is LGBTQ rights and abortion, and they put that under the guise of Planned Parenthood. But that's not what it is.
Let me ask you, OG, if you know, was there any legal action taken from your family against either the state of Mississippi because he was a official, or did they take any legal action at the Sioux City or the
To be honest with you, no. And the only reason why is because, again, look at what state we're talking about and look at the time that happened. And my grandmother understood back then that to press the issue only would have brought about more threats and more violence to her and her family. So she ate the bullet painfully, if you will, for lack of better words. They didn't pursue any legal action against him because they knew it was a lost cause. With him being a Mississippi state legislator, what power and influence would they have over that?
What did your family do anything to commemorate your grandfather?
Say again?
Does the family do anything to commemorate your grandfather?
No, not really, to be honest. The state of Mississippi, dedicated a memorial to him that stands out front of the cotton gin. But other than that, as personally, the family itself, No, they don't. Why? I don't know. But as
When is his
far as I
birthday?
know, as far as I know, during my upbringing, they've never done anything. No.
When is his
That's
birthday?
January 1st, 1912 was his birthday.
January
Oh,
1st.
so he was born on New Year's.
Mm.
Yeah. And
When did when was the day
Big
he
Mama's
died?
birth Big Mama's birthday was April 5th, 1917.
Wow.
She
Well,
so
on this platform, every January 1st and every April 5th, we're gonna commemorate your grandfather, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're gonna do a
Right.
little
okay.
show on him. We gonna post pictures of him. We gonna post pictures of the story.
I
And we
appreciate it.
put it on the thing.
Yes.
So
I mean, that's
every
historical.
January
That
1st and April 5th, we're gonna commemorate your grandfather. Hey baby, speaking of dates, right? I made 2 years yesterday. I'm gonna be celebrating Saturday. So the platform made 2 years yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
That's it, man. Them 2 years went by quick. Wow.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So we
So,
gonna
OG,
Yes, ma'am.
wait, what you about to say, son?
I was just saying we're gonna be celebrating Saturday, and I'm gonna make sure to write those dates down. And as long as this platform running, we're gonna commemorate your grandfather on those 2 dates. You hear me?
For
So,
sure.
so OG, we know when it comes to politics, you go hard, and and some people would look at you as racist or discriminatory. But now we understand you better to know why you feel like that. Do you feel like that make you feel like you racist or anything? Because I don't see you as racist. But do
Nope.
you feel like people take you as racist when you speak, or do that make you feel like you're a racist or anything?
Never made me feel that way, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people do, but to those people, I don't care. I grew up military. I can never be racist. I'm black, therefore I can never be racist because I've never been in a position of power to oppress another people. And that's what racism is.
Right.
Having the power and being in position and having the capability to oppress another people. Black people have never been in that position in this country. Never. So they can't call us racist. Now, am I prejudiced to a certain degree? Doggone right I am. Yes, ma'am, I am. I will admit that, but I'm not a racist. But I do have prejudice.
Okay.
And I have prejudice against ignorant, bigoted people, whether they be white, black, Latino, French, Scandinavian, Russian, or whoever. I simply don't like and cannot tolerate ignorant people, bigoted people who look down their nose at others, especially because of their skin color, because you don't know nothing about an individual until you sit and speak with that person and find out what it is they've been through and why it is they stand on the principles they stand on like they do. And so
Right.
when people hear me, it's not racism, it's passion and tired of my people not knowing enough of our true history to come up off the plantation. Because at the end of the day, that's all it is. They purposely whitewashed it and made it so we couldn't find it for years. But everything is at our fingertips now. So there is no excuse.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
just have to be willing to go down the rabbit hole because staying on the surface ain't going to be good enough. You're going to have to dig to find out about us.
How did this affect your mother mentally?
She never really talked about it much, but when you're around being a cancer survivor, I didn't have the blessed opportunity to leave home at 18. I had to wait due to all kind of complications, so I didn't leave home. Um, coming Going back to New Orleans from the DMV area um until I was about 25, 26 somewhere. So I spent about 8 years up there in that area. Um, I spent my summers at home whenever I wasn't in school. in high school in Georgia. My mom would ship me home. I spent my summers at home in New Orleans. So growing up every day with this woman, knowing what happened to my grandfather, her father,
Right.
I could tell that God kept her and helped her endure to become the self-sufficient, independent woman she is now since the loss of my father in 2010. But um, I can also admit that to a degree, I know she's broken because you have to understand that became not only a physical disconnect, but an emotional disconnect too. At 9 years old, she was only 9. So she had to grow up knowing what happened to her dad, knowing who done it, seeing that man every day until she went out to college, met my dad, he got drafted, and she started living her life, traveling with my father because he got drafted into the army. So imagine that, having to grow up seeing this man go scot free for murdering your father in broad daylight in cold blood, until my mother gave her life to the Lord in her 20s. She really didn't want anything to do with white folks. But after she gave her life to the Lord, that's what changed and transformed her. And she raised us not to be that way, not to hate white folks because of what EAPers did. And so that's how I live my life. I don't hate anybody. I just have a very strong and passionate dislike for racism and bigotry. And to me, when those words come up, all I can think of is the Democratic Party because it was a Democrat who killed my grandfather. It's the Democratic Party that gave birth to slavery and the Klan. So there is nothing in that party that can benefit us as a people when their history is steeped and rooted in killing us and keeping their foot on our neck so we can't breathe or progress.
Who was I'm trying to understand. I remember seeing somebody saying they put the shotgun in somebody's stomach when they wouldn't let them go to the body and they put a shotgun. Was that your grandmother or who was that?
No, uh-uh.
Okay.
I remember hearing that story though, but I don't know who that was.
Okay.
Oh, gee, why?
But no, I think about the only thing they really that I know of after Paul was murdered. I do remember my family speaking about my uncle Roy, God rest his soul. He just passed earlier this year. Last year, I mean, I'm sorry. Um, he and my mom were coming home one evening from a church revival, and as they were pulling up, the Klan was taking off. They had set a cross of fire in the mailbox. So I think that's another reason why they never really pressed the issue for retribution because the Klan had already began to basically send their little threats, to send out the message that it would get worse, I guess, if they tried to pursue legal action.
Oh,
So
gee.
she did what was best for her as a single mother during that time, raising 9 children by herself.
Let me ask you this, though, G. You heard me? And shout out to Grams too. You heard me? You mentioned the grassroots. You know what I'm saying? Hundreds, maybe thousands of freedom fighters that go unnoticed, right?
I can't
But
hear you, Nut.
um, earlier, you know what I'm saying? you mentioned the hundreds, maybe thousands of the freedom fighters that aren't mentioned. You know what I'm saying? Why, in your opinion, you hear me? Do you think that they only focus on the few and not everybody, or at least try and find out everybody?
Man, my personal opinion about that, my personal answer would be, I mean, I honestly don't know, but if I had to give an answer, bro, I would say because if they were to begin talking about those grassroots civil rights martyrs that were really in the trenches, the deeper they go, I believe they don't do it because it means the more it would expose the history of the Democratic Party, and it would change people today. It would change their outlook on how they look at the Democratic Party and maybe cost them a lot of voters.
What happened in the way, like back then, the togetherness? In your opinion, where did that go into? And back then, the togetherness, right? Like your grandfather, the people,
Mhm.
not saying that they're not, but the people that were willing to die for this. You see what I'm saying? The people that were willing to really love, care, and fight for people who they didn't
What do I
even know.
think happened to that unity?
Yeah, you already knew.
Being real, when they introduced Black America to welfare and kicked the men out of the home, that slowly but surely began to break down the, um, the the family nucleus. I was doing some research earlier, and there is a minister in North Carolina, Bishop Patrick Wooten, and the media can't stand him because he stands on principles. And he was talking about this very thing, the unity and the division that's amongst us as people today, especially us as Black people. And he was talking about how back in the 50s, basically he said the fertility rate, in order for a race of people to survive over a 25-year time span, there has to be a fertility rate of 2.1 children being born. Back in the 1950s, marriage rate amongst Black people was well over 60%. The fertility rate was 3.6. When they introduced welfare and quote unquote Planned Parenthood, aka abortions, in the late 60s and early 70s, the divorce rate increased, single motherhood increased, and the fertility rate became 2.3 in the 60s and 70s. Today, present day 2024, the fertility rate in Black America is 1.7. So it's under what it's supposed to be for us to survive for the next 25 years. Why did I say all of that? Because all of the programs that are what's the word I'm looking for? All of the programs that aid in these numbers I just mentioned to you are programs that are being pushed by the Democratic Party. So they are still killing us. They have only found more subtle and more advanced ways to go about doing so. But the methods, the agenda, the ideology is still the same as it's always been. Limit their numbers, And if we can't, and kill them off. Promise them stuff, make it sound good, but at the end of the day, it hurts and cripples us more than it helps us. Because when you brought about welfare and you made one of the stipulations, the man can't be in the home, then you make it hard for these men to get jobs. If and when they are felons, you sent them off to war. They came back addicts because heroin was booming over there in the Korean War, that you shouldn't even been sending American soldiers over there on that land to fight because it wasn't our fight. So you sent them over there knowing what was over there. You bring them back addicted. You lock them up for being so. And then you bring crack in the 80s.
Wow. Wow.
And then and then for the people who selling crack, you make it so they get buku more number of years for selling crack than the brother who sells powder cocaine when it's the same thing.
Right.
You made clinics and rehabs for white addicts, and you began to build more penitentiary for black addicts and blacks who sold it. But you brought it here. Y'all even went as far as creating ghettos, because after you bombed and took all of the land and created laws so that you could keep it, you had to put black folks whose homes you bombed down somewhere. So that's when you created Section 8 and the Federal Housing Authority. All of these are programs created by the Democrats. Do your research. Know the history of the party you are dealing with. That's all I'm saying. I'm still not trying to change your vote. I just want you to open your eyes and look at it from another perspective before you continue to go and give these people a vote they don't deserve from you, because they aren't going to give you anything in return. And history shows us they never have.
Let me ask you something more, G. Besides the vote, besides all that, right? What can we as a people do to get back to that togetherness that we spoke of back in the times when your grandpa was doing his thing?
Start saving our little pennies. Start investing in real estate and land. If you can afford to go out and find bankruptcy or repossessed homes, in your area, or if you can afford to buy them in the areas that are like, there are places, look at, Detroit, certain areas of Detroit, and other cities around the area that have blighted, black communities because of black flight. Take advantage of those homes, even though they torn down, broke up and everything. If you know somebody who does carpentry and you can invest into buying that home and paying that brother, then that's a job for that brother. Or it may be a job for some brothers in Detroit. They may have some carpenters who hurting there. They may be homeless on the street, or they may have just lost a job. You just never know until you go there. We can start buying up homes we can afford. We can pool our finances together amongst one another with people we know we can trust as family and friends, and start buying land. And ultimately, bro, we really just need to get back to following the Bible, not this mess they preaching today, because that's again, I'm gonna keep saying it every chance I get. That's not gospel. Get back to following scripture. If you don't understand scripture, again, everything is at your fingertips now. I'll find somebody who is truly into understanding the word and ask them questions and get help from them. But we need to go back to the old landmarks of the elders, bro. The elders depended on one another in the community. They shop in one another's businesses. So they kept the money in-house. During the 20s and 50s, the black dollar circulated in the black community over 20 plus times before it left outside. That's how we were able to build all of these Black Wall Streets all over the land that they don't talk about to this very day. All we hear about is Tulsa. That's another problem for me. They had Black Wall Streets everywhere. They weren't just in Tulsa. It wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. They were everywhere. Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, New York, they were everywhere.
Your grandfather was a Black Wall Street.
I was about to say, shoot, my grandfather was a Black Wall Street all in itself. That's not counting the other entrepreneurs that they don't tell you about that were living in Liberty, Mississippi. Lewis Allen was one. E.A.
Right.
Steptoe was one. The whole community, pretty much.
And their name should go down in history. They should be recognized. They
Right.
should
Like
get.
that's what I'm saying. Don't just recognize some and don't recognize them all. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. And you have people to this day who really don't even know who Medgar Evers is. Everybody knows Malcolm, Dr. King, and Rosa because we constantly push them in the media. But when
Right.
you talk about a Medgar Evers, I'm sure people may have heard the name before, but they still have to go and look to
Right.
see.
So
Man.
did he die because of preaching the funeral? Because I seen what somebody said after he preached.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mhm.
Pretty much after that made his name known and they found out that he stood on principles just like my grandfather, not too
Mhm.
long after that, out of here.
Right.
Damn. So we passed that hour mark. You know what I'm saying? So we gonna get everybody last. We gonna start with you, OG. What's your last words on this topic? You know what I'm saying? And we gonna do a moment of silence for your grandfather and the rest of the fallen freedom fighters too. You hear me?
Um, if you can, just do your own research if you want to know about my grandfather and just share it. That's all I ask. Share it so that people can learn for themselves about not only the history of our people, more than just Dr. King, Rosa, and Malcolm, because again, there are hundreds and thousands more than just them that you can learn about. Um, if you get the opportunity, you ever get the chance, go check out the Civil Rights Memorial they dedicated to them in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a whole museum. Um, and again, just as importantly, know the history of the party you choose to vote for. Don't just vote for somebody because they look like you, even though they aren't you. And that's not slinging mud. Again, I'm not, I don't do that. I, I base things off of facts. And if you go with the facts, you will find interviews where her own father has stated he's Irish and South Asian descent. Therefore, that's what that makes her, Irish and South Asian descent, not black. Do your own research to find out about the history of the character of the party you choose to give your vote to. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to tell you you need to vote Democrat, Independent, Republican, or whatever. I'm just going to tell you know the research for yourself and stop listening to these bald and caged black folk who are out here cooning for Kamala Harris.
What you got,
And
Bob?
I stand on that.
I want to say, salute OG first of all. When we hear
Appreciate
about our
you.
ancestors and finding our family tree, it's a lot of things we don't know. Because I know it's a lot of things I don't know nothing about, no grandparents, period, and stuff like this here. But to know that this is your grandparent and you got family still living, and that your actual grandparent had to live through this, had to deal with this, and had to die for this here.
Mhm.
It's enough for us to stand up for and to honor that person. And I believe he should be honored not just with those videos we seen, not just with the monument, but just like we salute and honor Dr. Martin Luther King and all the rest of our great people that we have seen. I mean, I also heard that Dr. King was supposed to speak with somebody before he got killed in during the time of all this going on with your grandfather. But yes, he needs to be honored, and we need to know, to look into things. Just share this and, like you say, share and let it be known. Don't let it just sit in a box and put a cover over it like it never existed.
And think
Because
about this here, sis. I want people to let this marinate in their mind. My grandfather was murdered in 1961. Beloved, it's only 2024.
right,
It's only been 63 years ago. 63. That's not a very long time for real.
and if it wouldn't be for you, honestly, I never heard of him before. And I'm pretty sure it's so many other people. I'm 62 years old. And I never heard of him until
Right.
you came.
So my grandfather lost his life a year before you were born. He's
Right,
only been gone 63 years. Think about that.
right.
And my grandmother died 9 years ago and never saw a bit, I mean, not one drop of justice for her. Nothing.
And I'm gonna say this, you know what I'm saying? 19, what was it, 1962?
What it was
1961 when he was murdered.
61 in
19,
September. I was born a month later.
Wow.
1961 to 2024. No, that is not a long time. But that is too long to be going through the same things that they went through, and we going through the same things that we went through, just in a different way. It's too
Right,
long.
because history trying to make make it recycle and repeat itself.
Facts.
Just a different
But
way.
the only thing
Yep.
that needs to repeat itself is the way we treated each other. Is the way we was together. Is the way that we loved each other. That's the only thing
Right.
that we need to repeat. If we don't repeat that, then that's what's gonna bring on them repeating those times. Because to piggyback off of what OG said, whether Kamala gets in or whether Trump gets in, this agenda is gonna be pushed. This agenda is gonna be passed. Y'all are putting y'all trust in man and not in God.
All right, now tell them. All right.
Yep. Did he freeze up?
It want to freeze up because he's saying putting your trust in man and not in God. Now y'all
He
want to
got
freeze
in
with the devil.
there. Yep. You see that, huh?
Y'all
You
put
see that,
y'all
huh?
emotions behind
Yeah.
y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, we hear
Yeah.
you.
Can y'all hear me?
It try to freeze on you.
Yeah.
It try to freeze on
All right. Damn, what I was saying.
you. You're putting their trust in man.
Stop
They
putting their
putting their
trust
trust
in
in
man and
man.
put it in God.
They y'all putting down trust in man. When I say man or woman, for y'all that's petty, man or woman, and it should be in God, and it should have stayed in God. And I think that that's the reason why a lot of these natural disasters are happening. I really do think they man-made, but it's still in the scripture, right? I really
Right.
do think that he's letting us, as a whole, stand on that decision to walk away from him, because all of this stuff is coming in the light, right? That's been brewing since the 60s, but now is the time. No, we the most vulnerable right now. We the most divided right now. We the most ignorant right now. That's why this is the time. And don't think that just for voting either for Trump, for the ones who do want this pass, that it's gonna pass, or voting for Kamala for the ones that don't want it to pass, that it's not gonna pass. It's gonna pass just simply because it was already set in stone to pass. So where is your faith at? Where is your
Amen.
trust at? Who do you believe in to take us through the next 4 years and after that? They say that the year is the plan is the year 2025, right? But God then brought you this far to put your trust in man and then you talking about something that man got planned for you. So you putting your trust in man and you fearing man. So you're supposed to have your trust in God and fear God, but you putting your trust in man and fearing man, and then asking where God at these times that we in right now. Make it make sense. That don't make no sense. Y'all walked away from him. Y'all turned y'all back from him. Y'all said the white man gave him this. Y'all said that it's not true. Y'all said that it was a manipulation tool. Y'all say that he's not real. And then when as a majority or just enough people for it to matter and switch how shit stuff was going, and stuff starts going like this, when that cloud is over it, feeding it, getting bigger, and y'all wonder what's going on. Y'all know what's going on. The people that turned away what's going on. The people that's turning on each other is what's going on. The people that's not walking in the same way as first God, as OG grandma, as OG grandfather walked, and the hundreds of people who has not been mentioned or brought up. Everybody's doing something for clout. Whether it be going live, whether it be speaking on it, whether it be just voting on Kamala for clout, everything is for clout. Everything is for attention. Everything is to be down with what's going on right now. And they always trick us like that. We get like Obama. We got behind Obama. We did this, we did that, we got him in there. We won the fight, and we forgot all about the war, and we spent 8 years doing nothing. I'm not trying to spend the next 8 years doing nothing so everybody can feel like they won because we got a black woman in office when we did the same with a black man and they didn't let him do anything. So this is a black woman, and y'all gonna sit up there 8 years later and say, oh, we knew she wasn't gonna be able to do nothing because she's a black woman. So what are we doing there?
I want to read something out of God's word, and this comes out of Colossians 2:8, and it says, "Beware, unless anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the traditions of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ." Think about that, because this is everything you saying right now. You putting your trust in what man telling you, man's ideologies, man's beliefs, man's ideas, when God has already laid the blueprint for us to follow. And then what makes it even worse is you listen to these folks, and then the actions show you they're lying, and they still claim to be a Christian nation. That's blasphemy.
And then you tell us vote one way, right? Just so this wouldn't happen when it's already written.
And we're gonna come to a point where it's gonna be for God I live and for God I die. You know, if we're gonna get to that point, and that means we got to keep our eyes on God now. Don't wait till that time comes, because we're gonna get
honestly, sis, we are right there now. I mean, this one thing this election is showing me is just how real spiritual warfare truly is, because that is exactly what this election is. This is spiritual warfare at its finest right now. Say again.
I say wickedness in high places.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Wickedness in high places at its finest, in real time HD, right before our faces. And what scares me is that there are so many of us who call ourselves Christians rocking with it, willing to give them the vote that we own. With all of this wickedness they are showing you since the Obama administration that they are going to continue to promote.
And I'm going to add to that, right? with everything behind, like you said, the spiritual warfare and this and that, right? If and this goes to that passage that you read out the Bible, right? If I'm not saying we, right? But if a group of people put a group of thoughts in another group of people's heads and got them away from what originally they stood on, what originally got them through everything before this time, their family, everything else, and you take that away from them, you walk them away from it, that passage that you read, and I not to me, I mean no disrespect, right? It means
Right.
to me, but how they have it now with this spiritual warfare, they have walked a lot of people away from that same book that you just read out of. So you reading that passage means nothing to a lot of people, and that's the problem.
Because God's
Yep.
gonna let them have their way. God's
Yep.
gonna let them have their way.
And you're right. And see, the thing
That's the
about
problem.
God is, the thing about God, sis just said it. He's a gentleman. He doesn't force himself on anybody. You want to go and rock with that? Go ahead. But just understand that when I reach my limit, you are going to find out that I have a wrath just as
Right.
much as I show grace and mercy. I'm a just God. There's
Yeah.
another side of me too, and it's called wrath.
But
And
y'all,
America, if they at the rate they are going, they are very soon going to feel the wrath of God, bro.
Yes. Yes.
but I'm gonna tell you like this, right? Is faith is walking by faith, and it's nothing at all. What are you doing right now? And what are you gonna do in the future? Because if y'all putting y'all, because y'all got a lot of faith, but it's going into man. It's going to a person. It's going into a certain group of people. And it's going into the same group of people that put you in the position you in, having to depend on that certain people in the first place.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say.
You know what? And another thing, son, they have it be like a lot of people have a lot of faith, but you're also lukewarm in the midst of your faith. You know, you're lukewarm, and God gonna screw you out. You know, He gonna let you
Yep.
go.
And people wonder why their lives going the way it is, and why stuff going the way it is in their life, and they project that energy on other people with that light. And with that light, I mean with God in them. That's all a part of spiritual warfare. When you don't want to take part in the foolery, and people cast you out or people condemn you, that's all a part of the spiritual warfare. You see what I'm
Yep.
saying? And everybody is just thinking it's worldly, and it's all about man against man and Democrat against Republican. But this is really, they put us against us when it should have been us against them. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about good versus evil. But people
Right.
that
Yep.
let evil in and let evil take control of their minds, and they fueled off it now. They fueled
Yep.
off the hate. They fueled off the past. They fueled off of fear. And they fueled off everything but faith in God. And that's why stuff is, I'm trying to do like this because my name is all in my face. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? But they fueled by fear and all that, and they're not fueled by faith in God. And that's why things are happening how it's happening now. And you keep blaming God, walking away from him, and he's gonna keep walking after you, and he's gonna put that y'all just don't know. Y'all doing it to yourself.
Yep.
Y'all
And
doing
they
it to
and
yourself.
the way they go about it, they use black preachers who they know they can throw a dollar to play y'all.
Yup.
Notice every
Yup.
election, the first place they run to is the black neighborhood, to the black preacher who willing to take their money and let them get in their pulpit and run this wickedness to his people to get their vote. They
And
do it
then they
And
then
what
they
they
every
leave us right where
what
they
they fail
ran to us
every
at.
single time.
Yep.
what they
And
fail
then
to
they leave us
realize
right where they ran to us at when they don't use us no more.
what they fail to realize with God, we all have to give accountability for ourselves.
Oh, Every last one of us.
Right. Yes. And all those preachers that have led people astray and everything else, we all have to give
You're going to have to
accountability.
give an account for that. Because you
Yes.
know these people corrupt, but they offering you some money, giving you a big old church, so you'll let them come in there and hustle and deceive the flock God put you over. You're responsible for them people.
Right. Right.
That's
Yep.
scripture. You're
Yep.
responsible for the well-being of those people's souls, and you plan them out for $1. Shame
Yep.
on all of y'all.
Yep. Yep. And
Whatever we
like,
do in
so
life, just know we all gonna give accountability for ourselves, and it's gonna be some shameful things that we gonna see, that stuff we done probably forgot we did in our lives. That go for me and everybody
And
else.
that go for these entertainers too. I'm sick of all of them. Ricky
Right.
Smiley, talking about they need to block anybody ain't voting
yeah,
for her.
man,
Well,
with his
how about we
his halfway
how about we
goof ass
cancel your
self.
radio show, Ricky Smiley?
Yeah.
How about that?
Goof ass self. Being a comedian, please. Malcolm X told us
Roland
about
Martin.
people
How
like
about
you.
we cancel your TV news show on
Yeah.
YouTube, Roland
Yeah.
Martin? Only reason why
Malcolm
even
told us about
it
people
getting
like
in
you
the backer
anyway.
is because all of them are part of Greek organizations. That's the only reason why they backing her up.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they probably sponsor him some type of way. You see
And,
what I'm
and, and they
saying?
get paid to do that. You took it right out of my mouth. And they get paid for that. Now, again,
Exactly.
you want to vote?
Exactly.
If you want to vote for Kamala Harris, by all means, beloved, vote for Kamala Harris. If you want to vote for Trump, vote for Trump. I don't care who you vote for. But as Christian people, we need to quit putting so much of our trust in the vote and put it back in that Bible. That's all I'm saying.
And for our city, I think we had a great big old second line on there, big second line, and I love that. But I hope we can get all those people like that to come out and vote as well. Come out
And
and
you're
vote.
right.
Yeah.
And to vote logically.
Yes.
Don't vote based off of emotions and identity politics. Because even now that they put that, they come up with a new name for politics every 4 years. Now we got gender and identity politics. Now
That's
it's
what
always
damn
something.
man.
You feel
Lord
me?
have mercy.
But my thing is this: they claiming identity politics, but they're pushing an identity lie. If you
Right?
really want to know and I just recently watched something where they have been spending billions of dollars to clean up her image. That's why you can't find the real information through Google and all of these search engines about Kamala Harris, however they say her freaking name, because they made sure to get rid of all of it.
Hmm.
But I also found out they can't do that with or they call it X now. They can't do it with Twitter for some
Right.
reason. You can find all of the old
That's because
school real
your boy on
information
Twitter,
on who the true Kamala Harris
Elon
is
Musk.
on Twitter. That's why so many people are putting it out now to let people know y'all are being hustled by this woman.
So we
So you
And
get
my
the
thing
twisted.
is, if she's so fit for the candidacy, why won't she debate anybody? Why won't they let her? Why won't they let her do any one-on-one interviews? Because when you let her talk long enough, the real Harris comes to the forefront, and you see she can't. She rambles on and on. She'll give you a bunch of word salad that means nothing. She talks about nothing with substance, nothing of weight. She has no policies to discuss. If anyone was truly listening and paying attention, even during just the recent DNC that went on earlier this week, she was talking about policies that Trump was been talking about. She's stealing policy talk. And people listening and paying attention,
So we gonna
she's not
end it
fit.
here with a moment of
Son,
She's
silence.
not
you
fit.
twisting your hair?
Yeah.
All right, now. Greg, you see him twisting his hair, huh? I never you see him, huh?
I got a little stuff, you heard me? So we gonna end it, you heard me? first of all, we appreciate everything you grandfather did for us as a people.
Yes, yes.
It was a major loss losing him, but it was a major gain having somebody like him behind us, and we represent him. And like I said, on January 1st and August 5th.
I appreciate that, bro.
April 5th, huh?
So we gonna
Say again.
It was April 5th, huh?
No,
August?
Big Mama's April 5th.
Yeah, April 5th, son.
Papa's January 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not August, April 5th.
My bad. We gonna get it together, but just know we're gonna
dedicate that day to them.
Yeah.
For sure. I appreciate it.
And we gonna end it with a moment of silence, you know what I'm saying, for not only OG grandfather, you heard me, but for all the fallen freedom fighters, you heard me.